Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Balanced Vibes podcast. My name is Kirsten, and I'm really excited to bring you, I think, my first ever guest interview with one of my former clients. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure that everybody is excited to hear how the working was with me, what kind of results you got, and how you have been able to maintain all that. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
My name is Pamela. I'm 68 years old. I was born and raised in the Midwest, but I've been living in the San Francisco Bay Area, as you can see behind me, for about 30 years. I'm recently retired. I worked for about 40 years as a French to English translator. So pretty sedentary job, worked a lot of it from home.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah, linguistics is another thing that's kind of connecting us because we're both are linguists.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so today we're going to talk about then mostly about your nutrition and how it was to work with macronutrients and all that. So why don't you tell us first what got you interested in that topic?
Well, I've always sort of been interested in diet and nutrition and exercise trends. And so I kind of just keep an eye out, like I subscribe to the wellness newsletter from the New York Times and stuff. And I knew you from the Ice Chamber, former gym that sadly closed.
Yes, very sad.
Yeah, it was sad. And so when you started blogging, I was just, I just kept an eye out, and I would look at what you were doing. And so I was aware, of sort of your journey as it was happening, and then aware when you got into macro nutrition. And then my own sort of exercise journey, when you began your emphasis on weight training, it was really fit with where I was too at that time. So and then at the same time, as the years passed in my life, I was finding it harder and harder to keep my weight where I wanted. And I've never really dieted. But so when I wanted to lose weight, I would eat less, portion control. And it never worked. It just didn't work. And it was so frustrating because I would always, I only wanted to lose a few pounds, but I just found it to be impossible, no matter what I did. I only ate, this yesterday. Why am I weighing this, But so I did, I just sort of, like a lot of women, I think I just resigned myself. I just thought, well, this, that's the way it is as you get older. I mean, after menopause, what do I expect? And then there was this one podcast you interviewed someone, and I can't remember who it was now, but she said something about losing weight and with older women, and I made a comment, something like, hey, after menopause, forget it. Yeah. And you pushed back against that. You challenged it. And I thought, well, it wasn't long thereafter where you made an offer of 3 weeks of free coaching. And so I thought, why not? It's so low risk. And it came again at a very good time for me. The timing was great because my husband and daughter were going to be out of town. And so I would have total control over the food in the house. And there wouldn't be all these temptations. I wouldn't be constantly cooking or anything. And so I thought, I could do anything for 3 weeks. And 3 weeks led to how many months of coaching? I don't remember.
6 eventually, or 6 months.
Yeah, at the end of the 3 weeks, I really wanted to keep going.
Yeah. I think I remember that email exchange. Like I sent out an email. I said, like you said, like the topic of, it is possible to lose weight when you are post-menopause too. And you said, no, you can't. And we kind of went back and forth a few times, and then you tried it out. Okay. So I think one of the really great things about you was already, first of all, that you had not dieted before, which is a rare thing, I have to say, because that allowed us to get started with the weight loss, fat loss immediately. So a lot of times I'm talking about people having to repair their health before because they are just so over dieted, and you wasn't. So that was really great. Like we could just get started. So when we did get started, can you describe the process a little bit, and maybe also what was difficult about it? What was the most challenging thing?
Well, I think I didn't think it would work, because for me it was like, well, this is another diet trend, there are millions of them. And then I also didn't think I could eat that much protein. I just thought that's just that's too much. I'll be so full. And plus the other hesitation I had was that I didn't want to track every mouthful of food. I just thought that would be a miserable. I'm a perfectionist. So, I would want it to be perfectly accurate, but I didn't think it was possible to be perfectly accurate. And I thought it would drive me crazy to be that focused on food constantly. But it was really pretty amazing that right away, it just, immediately I could feel the positive effects from eating that much protein and how sated I felt. And I felt like I was eating more than I usually eat, even though I'm not sure that I was calorie wise or, um, you know, because we had logged a few days of my regular diet, I guess, and my carbs were pretty high, I think. But my protein was what, 55 grams a day or something like that. So that was a challenge to, to make myself eat that much protein.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the positive effects right away.
Yeah, and then you got used to it, and it wasn't that hard after you got used to it, right?
Right.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about your accuracy, because you say that it was really difficult to kind of like wrap your head around the fact that you have to track everything. But this is how it is when you choose to do it with macros. There are other ways to lose weight too, and if somebody wants to choose something else, that's fine. But if you want to do it this way, then you do have to track. And what's so interesting is that you are one of the most accurate people that I've worked with, even though you said it was so hard for you.
Well, I thought it would be hard, but I actually sort of enjoyed it. It's
Okay.
that perfectionist in me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember sometimes you would say, oh my God, like I stayed under like like a very small amount,
It's like
right?
1 gram.
Right. And you're like, is this okay? I'm like, this is more than okay, because I don't require like perfectionism, but I think you required it. You said you wanted to do really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did get great results because you were so accurate. So I want to jump to the exercise part for a little bit too. Tell us a little bit more about what was your workout routine before we got started, and did you change it all?
Well, not really. I mean, I've always been really physically active. I mean, even as a kid, I grew up in a rural area and I spent most of my time outdoors, and I was doing a lot of climbing of trees and running and then as a teenager, I was in gymnastics and dance. And after I started working full time as an adult, I had to do things that sort of fit with my schedule. And I was or things that I could just do on my own that didn't involve a class so much. I was cycling and running and swimming. But then in my early 50s, I discovered the boot camps at the ice chamber, and I was really hooked right away because the classes were not boring. They were different every time. They were very fast paced, and they were all these exercises I was really not doing, like the push-ups and the pull-ups and the sit-ups. And they were really hard for me, but they were just short sets, so they were doable. And I had never lifted weights before, and I really loved lifting weights because I could see my muscles grow, and I felt stronger. So, but then I would say the last 5 years, with age, I've had some injuries. I've had just issues related to aging, like some arthritis in my thumb, in my toe, and things that make it hard to do everything in the boot camps. And I was always having to modify those exercises. So I was really moving over to strictly weight training anyway. So by the time I did the coaching with you, that's what I was doing. And I just started using your training sheets. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you like the strength training more than boot camps, or did you still like the
I
boot camp?
did. And that was always the part of boot camps I liked the most. I just remember Steve. I was going, do we have to do so much cardio? He goes, let's do some more weights. He goes, oh, you don't like cardio, huh?
Yeah, you're doing the right thing. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think boot camps can be a lot of fun, and it's a very social thing, right?
Yeah, it was. It
We
was
had
great.
like such a fun group of people there. I remember, especially the Saturday mornings. I used to love those workouts. They were great.
Yeah. Oh, those were like game time. Yeah.
Yes, it was so much fun, and having coffee afterwards and all that. Um, but yeah, the strength training, like the true strength training, is where it's really at. If you want to put on muscle, which is kind of what you said you've done for the past 5 years, right?
Hmm.
And I remember some conversations. It's always so interesting with you to go back and forth too. But things like you said that, yeah, but strength training is kind of boring
Well,
compared to
it is.
boot
I
camps.
do it in my garage for the most part now, and it's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm by myself, and it's, I don't have that stimulation of the other people and the fast pace, and I listen to podcasts, while I'm doing it, and that sort of helps me still feel a little stimulated mentally,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But sometimes you have to do the boring stuff to get the
yeah.
good
Yeah, I
results.
don't have any problem with, and my routine, I do it first thing in the morning, and then the rest of the day is mine. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about results too. Like we said, we worked together 6 months and then 3 weeks before that. So, what kind of results did you get?
my results were really good and really consistent. Um, I don't remember exactly. I mean, I remember when I started out, I was 138 pounds, and that was high for me. I had a gut. I'm only 5'5". And yeah, I think I lost 8 pounds in 10 weeks or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we did the fat loss phase, and do you remember what happened after that?
After the fat loss phase,
Yeah. What did we do after that? Just wondering if you remember how the whole process went.
maybe I don't. Was it we were working out maintenance, right?
Yeah, yeah. So after that, we did the reverse diet, right? So that's always what I want to emphasize for people is that the fat loss shouldn't be like forever. It shouldn't go on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
Because when we take the calories down, this is only temporary. And so that's what we did with you too. We started adding the calories back up, right? So we increased them up to your maintenance level, and you have been able to maintain your results, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Tell us.
do remember before we started before we ended the fat loss phase, I was losing the weight so consistently, and I was lower than even the goal that I had set. I
Mhm,
think I said, as long as I'm below 135, my expectations were low,
mhm.
but it felt so good to be, even lower than that. I was like, well, maybe I should go lower. And you were like, no,
Yeah.
we're good now. I think you've done enough fat loss phase, so.
Yeah, like you said, you were not a big person to begin with, so you only need, and that eight pounds that you wanted to lose, those came down. You were so consistent, and I have to tell you, you did amazing work with tracking and being accurate. But at the same time, you did have days when you did eat out, right? It wasn't just that you weighed everything all the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, we started, I think, in the beginning of August.
Mhm.
And then in September, I went to France for 2 weeks because my daughter she's a cyclist. She had won this 2 weeks in a house in this area where she could do these epic Tour de France cycling, and she went with her team. And these women eat like I mean, you wouldn't believe how much they eat.
Good for them. That's great.
Yeah, they have to. But so I was there for 2 weeks, not always with them, but I was not tracking. It was it was like a break.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was surprised that when unless you're cooking, protein is kind of hard to come by in the amounts that you want.
Mhm.
In restaurants, it's difficult. Even in friends' homes, I'd be like, oh, they made a nice stew. I'm gonna get 2 chunks of beef.
Great. Yes.
So I would keep like this sliced turkey in the fridge and eat some when I came home. Or my big strategy though was to make sure I got like 30 or 40 grams of protein for breakfast. And yeah, I did that mostly with Greek yogurt and protein powder because that was very, easy to come by. Actually, the protein powder turned out not to be easy to come by, but we did find some. So yeah. And when I came back, I had not gained any weight. So
yeah. So protein first helped you. But did you, I mean, you were in France, you must have had some croissants and some good stuff, right? Wine?
Yeah, I knew before I left, I was like, there's going to be wine, there's going to be cheese, there's going to be pastry. But, and I think I went with my daughter every morning to the bakery because, they wanted the pastry, and there was this really good bakery right nearby. And I think I pretty much ate well, maybe not every single day a pastry, but pretty close.
Yeah. Were you more active during that time?
Yeah, oh yeah. There was good hiking around there. When the women would go off on their long cycling thing, I would go on a hike. And so yeah. And then you're walking all the time, in Europe. Yeah, you're walking for everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because that's Europe.
Yeah.
Way more walkable.
Yeah.
But you had another trip. Did you go to Greece?
Yeah.
Right?
So that was September. And then in October, I came back and I had a few more weeks of tracking. And then we went to Greece. And that was a much more like controlled situation as far as food, because it was a package tour. And they would just say, okay, Thursday night, we're going to be going to X restaurant. These are your choices of entree, and everyone would have to choose. There would be 3 choices usually, meat, fish, chicken. And I always just made sure I chose the one with the most protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really the key. I feel like after you stop tracking and you're at maintenance now, once you keep that in mind, as long as you keep that in mind, and then you're able to listen to your fullness, right? When it's the time to stop eating and you have hit your protein, then it's actually pretty natural. I feel like this is how I do it, and it sounds like you do it the same way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I just when you say listen to your fullness, sometimes I don't feel that I'm actually, I guess what it is, like some days I'll be like, oh, I feel like I'm getting too full. And then I look back at what I ate and it hasn't been, my numbers are not over my maintenance level. So I'm still sort of, that's why I stick with, I track sometimes and I weigh myself, just because of the head trip, just to make sure I really am on track.
Yeah. But are you tracking
myself, to train myself to feel that fullness?
Yes. But you're not tracking your food all the time, right? And you're
not
right.
No. And sometimes I do it only part of the day, just to see what I've done that day.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good balanced approach, because I mean, if you really like to track all the things, I guess you could. But I think personally that it is a little bit stressful. It's time consuming. And if you have paid attention, like throughout this process, like how it works, what foods fill you up, then you don't need to track forever.
You're used to, of course I can have a piece of hot buttered toast. That's what I ate right before the podcast.
Yeah.
There is room.
What about your workout routine right now? What is that like?
I'm still pretty much I do 4 days a week of weight training. Yeah. Mostly in the garage.
Right. And you have everything in your garage. That's awesome.
Yeah, I get up, I go for a walk, to get some steps in and just get warmed up, do a little joint warm up, and then I work out for about 30-40 minutes with weights. Yeah.
Yes. And you used to have 1 hiking day a week too. Are you still doing that?
I still do. Yeah. I went yesterday. I look forward to that every week. We do, there's so much great hiking around here, and we do at least 5 miles and 1,000 feet elevation. That's our goal for each hike. Yeah.
There's your cardio.
Yeah.
And also, when you have those hiking days, I remember when we worked together, these were your days of just eating a little bit more, or higher carb days. And you were able to manage it, and while obviously not bringing a food scale to the restaurant. So how did you do that?
Right. Our group always goes out afterwards for sort of a happy hour or dinner, Again, I'm ordering something with protein.
Mm.
I always have a drink. I have like one or two drinks, not every week, but that, I would always have a drink after the hike.
Mhm.
And yeah. So yeah, I was used to what that translated into, for
Mhm.
the diet,
Yeah.
but I always tried to get the protein.
Mhm. Very
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so we talked earlier a little bit about how you had like a little bit of like hesitation before you got started. You didn't quite think it would work. So what would you tell to somebody who maybe has the same thoughts? I don't know if I should do this. Should I not? What are the pros and cons? What would you say?
Um, I really think for me, it was the easy entry, the low risk 3 weeks. I can do anything for 3 weeks.
Mhm.
I would just tell people really pick, that it's temporary. And even in the fat loss phase, I know it kind of got to maybe a couple of weeks where I was like grumpy, because God, this is impossible. How I need more carbs.
Mhm.
But I knew it was temporary,
Mhm.
so I could stick with it. But the other thing is, I think right away, one of the things I loved about tracking was that I hadn't realized that for most of my life, I had lived with the thought in the back of my mind, can I eat this? Is it okay to eat this? It was like this constant source of stress that I didn't even realize I had. I remember this feeling of liberation when you gave me these numbers, and I was like, I can eat this, I can eat this. And then at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh, I haven't had enough carbs. Where's the popcorn? And then, it
Yeah.
was like a release of stress. It was very liberating.
Mhm.
Um, so having specific numbers to track really took away that stress. And for 3 weeks, I'm going to do what she says. No fear, just
Yeah.
give myself over to the process. Yeah. And that, protein is filling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do try and make sure I'm not getting too much saturated fat. I eat healthy proteins. I do love steak. But I limit that kind of protein. But no, protein's the key.
Mhm. Yeah. Very
So I
cool.
think people should really choose, a time frame in their mind, really that works for them. I can do this for X amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and people who aren't seeing results right away, that probably also would make it difficult. I started seeing them right away, so I think that spurred me on. It was just so revelatory to me that I had been trying, just to keep my weight down a few pounds, and it was impossible. And now it's just happening.
Mhm.
So I think people need to just remember to be patient and have faith in the process
Mhm.
for the amount of time that they have designated, that they're
Mhm.
going to try it.
Mhm. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and I want to say one more time that the reason why you started getting results so quickly, there are two things. One of the things was that you were healthy. So we didn't have to like save you from like 10 years of under eating and like fix your body, which is unfortunately something that so many women need. Like when you
Mhm.
listen to some women's stories, it's just like you go like this because you hear that there's this diet and that diet and third and fourth and like paleo and keto and all that they have tried and it has been literally been a decade. So with these people, like unfortunately, they're not going to see the result as quickly as you did. So this was great. I think you're probably like, I don't know, 1/10 of women maybe who haven't been dieting all the time. So
Yeah, well,
that's one of the
all
reasons.
on your inner feminist, because that it really bothers me that because when I was young, uh, the feminist movement was really just starting, and that pressure to constantly be, to look like a Barbie doll. I just saw the Barbie movie. So, that constant pressure and you're never good enough and so on. It really grieves me that so many women still feel that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that drives them to do this
that
crazy
drives
stuff.
them not to eat. I can't. I remember being at a French friend's house. I was like, she's not eating anything.
Right.
And it's not like she's super skinny. So she feels like she has to eat even less. It's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, a lot of these people who, they're not even that skinny, you could tell that they probably want to lose some weight. The reason why they have gained that weight is exactly because they have been maybe trying so hard
Yeah.
to keep the calories down and starve themselves. But at one point that starts to backfire. It
Oh,
starts
yeah.
working against you because your body's not supposed to be starving all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
taking control, taking control of your own body,
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the other reason why you got so great results is that you were so accurate, and you need to be dedicated the way you were. It can't be like, oh, I'm not going to track today or tomorrow, and then the foods get broke, and then I didn't feel like it. You can't
Yeah.
do it like this, right?
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Yeah. I mean, just stick with it for the I mean, I understand that feeling of I can't do this, but just discipline yourself for that period of time.
Yeah. And it's easier once you get back to your maintenance and you have more freedom again.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things. We've covered everything that I want to ask you, but do you have anything you would like to add or something that I didn't ask about yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I think it was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool.
I do appreciate you very much, Kirsten,
Thank you.
because you're so consistent and you're living proof
Yeah. I try to.
of the healthy way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope that maybe one day we can work out together again. It's been like since the ice chamber closed.
Yeah, which was what, 2019?
In June, I think.
Yeah,
4 years.
2019. It was right before the pandemic. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Listeners, I have no idea what we're talking about. But there was this really, really amazing gym where we actually met in Richmond, California. And you were there before me as a client, and then I came to work there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So thank you again so much
right.
for sharing your journey today with us. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Stay cool.
Thank you. Bye.